Can you hear me?
I can. Hello.
Oops, I can't hear you. So I don't know if it's me or you.
Oop. Give me just a second.
Now I can hear. Okay.
Oh, super.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm could be better. I don't know if Debbie sent you a note that
She did. Mm-hmm. I know we'll only be able to stay on for half an hour.
And it's not, I'm because of the line of work I do, which is actually funding.
Mm-hmm.
This week is probably the busiest week. I've been in emergency meetings because we have, companies that are contemplating going out of business, trying to navigate the funding world. It's pretty stressful and serious. So I'm actually jumping off of this to another emergency kind of call around this. So every other week would have been great. But, the reality of this is we are in uncharted territories. I've been doing this for 20 years. And this is like a whole new world, Mm-hmm. And so people are desperate to understand the funding and the resources, what to navigate, where to go first, how to figure things out. It's a really, hard time right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give everything I have. And what I said to Debbie is, I want to continue the conversation, whether it's continuing questions, offline, whether, there's an opportunity to come back. I want to be of the highest service. And I want to make sure that I honor that, if it was any other week in the universe, this would not be happening. But both because of that and because of what my background is, it just pulled me in a different place. So
it is what it is, but thank you.
Hey, Debbie. Yeah. Can you hear us, Debbie?
I think she can, but she's on mute. Debbie, can you?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I called Debbie. I called myself the panic monster. So I called Debbie as the panic monster. I said, I need, I want to make sure I respect everything here. So thank you for just understanding.
Of course. Okay, I'm muting now.
Okay. So so we can be so impactful for the people that will be on here. Libby, is there anything you want me to hyper focus on? Is it better I do conversation versus PowerPoint? What's going to be the best way to serve?
So I am just, so I think that I want you to be able to talk about your book and what's in it.
Yes.
That was the
yes, of course.
But I think that turning the focus toward, how it applies to what's happening right now is probably the most interesting and the most helpful use of time.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're supposed to go live in 4 minutes. I'm going to set up a Facebook live stream so that people can see it from there as well.
Okay. And is it better to do PowerPoint or what's the appetite? Mm-hmm. Or just conversation? I can have total conversation with no problem.
I think conversation might be the most interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. That works for me.
Cool.
Yeah. And then will you field any, are you going to field any questions? Will there be Q&A? Will there be more conversation from my perspective? What's your thoughts?
I figure probably if you could just start the conversation off.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know how many people are going to join us. There's some interest, but as you know, there's a lot going on. So I will keep the chat bar open, and I'll introduce questions from there, so you can just focus on talking. Mm-hmm. So I'll moderate the group chat section.
No worries.
And I'm also going to provide you with a brief intro from your bio that you've
And I didn't even ask how you're doing, so I want to. How are you doing? Because are you in the gig economy like everyone else, small business? And
no, I'm doing as well as anyone is. I'm employed full-time with JLink, and it's a fairly like online remote workplace anyway. So it has been, and our so I'm Genevieve, and then Livy, my boss,
right,
whose account I'm on, has.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no.
I just kept seeing that.
I know. She took this whole thing really seriously from the get, and like told us all to go home like early. So we've been able to be really responsive and to kind of pivot to offer things that are relevant right now.
Got it. Whew. Yep. Intense. All right.
Very.
We will do what we can do, and thank you again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as long as I'll close up by 10:30, like, and then I'm literally on the next one. And do you want to just explain the circumstances? Is it better, or I do, or what do you think?
Whichever you want. I can explain, or you can.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm just setting up this Facebook Live quickly.
Hello.
Hello. The positive thing is my kids want to go back to school, which I didn't think I'd ever hear. They're like, Mom, please send us back. Please.
Hilarious.
Hilarious.
That is great. Okay. Questions. Go live.
Great.
Oh, hi, Sarah.
Hello.
Yep. All right. I believe that we're broadcasting live.
Great.
Okay. Go back to this cracked window. Oh, and hello, Amy. Thanks for being with us.
Hi.
So, hi. To anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Genevieve Parker. I am the Director of Community, or the Community Engagement Manager at Twin Cities JLink. And we are joined today by Kedma Ough, MBA, and author of the relatively book, Target Funding, which is all about how to secure funding for your business, whatever your business is. Kedma is a nationally recognized small business funding expert. She's an innovation and entrepreneurship thought leader and an SBA award-winning champion of small business and an advisor for inventors. Kedma's driving mission is to empower people, particularly minorities, veterans, women, people with disabilities, and the LGBT community, which I love, to be business owners and to maximize their wealth potential. To date, she has helped more than 10,000 individuals fund, launch, and grow their businesses in a wide range of industries and with annual profits ranging from $5,000 to $10 million. That's a hard number to read.
Yeah.
So because Kedma is so in demand, she's going to be with us for half an hour, and then her clients have demanded that she run off to help them. So yeah, we're going to hear from Kedma now, and everyone will have the opportunity to ask any questions that they want.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for the gratitude. And I want to thank Debbie for helping connect us. I want to first say that I'm really excited to spend a few minutes here. And I want to share that this is unprecedented. If we had picked any other week in the last 10 years, I would not have needed this, but my line of work is actually funding, and we are in a whole new world, as you know. So what I want to do is I want to step back because this conversation is so in play with what's happening. So I want to talk a little bit about target funding, how the book came about, and what the philosophy is behind the book. And for any of you right now who are wondering, what's next, if you're in that entrepreneurial space where you're thinking, what do I do next? Where do I go next? What's the avenue? What's the funding? What's the grants that look like? I will be happy to answer that. I also want to preface that, like everyone else, I work at home with 3 wonderful kids. So if you've ever seen The Weatherman where they had their little kids come in, please understand if that happens, that's the reason, okay? Because I feel like one's right behind me. Okay, so now as we continue, I began my journey. I've been involved in economic development for 20 years, and I began my journey like everyone else, right? Wanting the American dream, wanting to start a business. I'm a 5th generation entrepreneur. And in 2001, I found myself in a predicament that a lot of businesses I'm dealing with are right now dealing with. I had to make the difficult decision of filing bankruptcy. Now you have to understand something. As a woman, an educated woman with a master's degree who understands finance, my filing had nothing to do with my acumen, and it had everything to do with a relationship I was in, and I had to make a difficult choice. In leaving the relationship, I was forced into bankruptcy. And I remember the moment as clear as day. I was sitting on a curb in Tucson, Arizona, sobbing my eyes out because I had just filed bankruptcy. And I thought to myself, where do I go from here? Because it's one thing to go through a devastation that you have support, you have resources, you have family members, but I had none of that. And so basically 2 weeks later, in a fog I was in, I received a credit card from Capital One for $200. And I remember that moment as clear as day because I opened the envelope. I literally jumped up and down in my apartment because when I was a little girl, I used to play a game called Monopoly. And if you've ever played the game, you know that you could be losing everything, but if you can get to go and you can pass go, you're going to get $200. And so I thought in my mind, honestly, that the universe just dealed me back into the game. And so I played the game that way. I gamified my life. And I said, what if I go on a journey for the next few years to uncover every fund and every resource that can be available to people like us who want the American dream, but it had a crisis. And that took me on literally a 15-year obsession. And through that, I developed our target funding philosophy, which I'll talk a little bit about. And that's how I developed the book. So I share that story because I want each of you to know that while I do have a background in economic development and business development, everything I'm teaching today is from the School of Hard Knocks. This is from real stuff that worked. And so I want to make sure that you understand that I'm not coming from a theory, but I'm actually coming from realistic work that changed who I am in my life. And today I'm on the other side. And I'm privileged to work with thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs. So that's why this week has been very, very difficult for me. So let me step back a little and talk about how I view target funding so that it helps everyone. And if you don't mind, I'd love to show a visual so that we can sort of understand. And in the chat box, if you have any questions happening, please let me know. Let this be an interactive opportunity to share because I would be more than happy to give as much feedback and support that's very purposeful to you. And then you can help me field that because I'm not looking at the chat right now.
That sounds great. I will be fielding any questions for you.
Perfect. So I'm going to just change this into the view kind of where we need to be. So wait, slide sorter. Let's see if it comes up. Oops, I have the wrong one. See, isn't that great? I love when I make little errors because it shows I'm normal. 1 second, slideshow. Okay. This is just a little bit of a slideshow I put together, but I want to show you the power of it. in the world of business, we are constantly bombarded with something called target marketing. If you know and understand target marketing, you'd understand it to be that we are looking at how do we target our consumers, right? Every consumer demographic is buying into a certain segment. So when we target, we're looking at the demographic of who they are, maybe their purchasing pattern, their psychographic, it could be geographic, their location. However, in the field of funding, that's exactly what I do. Most people don't think of funding that way. What they do is they hear, oh, there's a funding source. Oh, SBA? Let me just run to SBA. No, that's not actually how you have to play the game. I'm going to ask you today to step back. I'm going to ask you to look at the game as a bigger picture and to understand that every funding source you choose to go after is tied to some kind of variable. I'll explain the variables in the next slide. This is just a very small example of all the funding that you can tap into today, regardless of the disaster plan that SBA just put into place. You see the disaster relief right over here? That's only one circle. There's veteran, if you're a veteran, if you have a disability, minority, economic development. Economic development is funding that comes directly from your community to create jobs, to create opportunity. It could be industry clusters. So you may be under an industry cluster that supports woodworking or supports artists or supports healthcare. There's funding tied to that. Or innovation. Maybe you're thinking about, you're an inventor and you have research and development you're thinking about, or you have this great idea to improve the next spatula in the houseware industry. Well, guess what? That's innovation. And then you have what everybody wants, right? Everybody reaches out to me. Where's the grants? Where's the grants, Kedma? There's grants, but we'll talk about how we find that. Of course, there's crowdfunding. There's contracts, which is reverse funding in the sense that the government is actually paying you to do this service. And then there's even religious funding, right? Things you wouldn't even think about, but the religion you're associated with. There's LGBTQ funding. I work very closely with the LGBTQ community. And so what I want you to know from this landscape is don't go after one source. I want you to imagine this is a pizza pie. And you have 12 slices, and every slice belongs to you, okay? Next slide. Where are the grants? Well, I'm gonna give you every secret I know, because one of the things that makes me really excited about the work I do, it's not giving you a list of where to go. It's teaching you how to play the game right, because if I can teach you how to play the game right, you're gonna know how to play in such a way that whether I'm with you or not, you're going to be strategic. So what you need to know from this slide is you have to stop looking at grant. You have to realize that grants are written in for different keywords. You see, everything you see on this slide is actually a grant. We'll talk about SBA right now, but SBA right now is coming out not only with their interest loan, but they just wrote into the stimulus package that they're giving a forgivable loan. I'll explain the difference. Essentially, a forgivable loan is truly a loan, written as a loan. You sign it as a loan. You agree to a set of criteria to satisfy that loan. And once you do that, you get the money. Is it a grant? Yeah, I think it's a grant, but it's never going to be said that way. To give you an illustration of that, about 10 years ago, because I have 3 boys, I did the math and I realized I was paying out about $2,500 a month in daycare. That's not unreasonable because a newborn is $1,000. a toddler is about $700, right? So you could see how it adds up. And so I said to myself, I have to have a better way. So I actually created a daycare and I went after a forgivable loan. A $25,000 forgivable loan to hire daycare workers for 6 months of payroll, and then I received the forgivable loan. So all this slide is to show to you is that please be aware that there are other keywords, that it's not just a grant. Now, here's the fun slide. Variables are gold. Variables are gold. So I want you to imagine we're now in Willy Wonka, the chocolate factory, and everybody wants the golden ticket. This is your golden ticket. Do you want to know how I find money? This is the golden ticket. You have to find the variables. So there are 6 major variables happening right now, especially with the stimulus package and all the funding we're seeing. Location. Your funding is going to come by location, which is national, state, city, neighborhoods. It's going to come by industry. It's going to come by size of business. Typically, under SBA regulations, which is the Small Business Administration, your size of business as a small business is 500 employees or less. But we're seeing funds now that say 100 employees or less, 50 employees or less. Second, below that, gender. Yes, there's funding for women. And if you're a woman, go after it. There is no pride here right now. There's money for ethnicities. If you're Hispanic, if you're African American, if you're Native American, veteran. So what I want you to understand is everything is tied to variables. Does that make sense so far? Crystal clear? Hopefully, kind of? Okay, great. All right, so now that I've shared that, I need to talk to you a little bit about how this looks in the landscape. Everything I'm sharing right now is actually detailed in my book. We came up with 300 resources on funding, which took us almost 2 years. But we didn't bring this funding in because guess what? My book is ever changing. Funds are ever coming. And so even if I have 300 plus, every single day, there's a new funding source that comes in and a new funding source that goes out and a new funding source that is repurposed or modified. This is currently what's happening on the landscape. On a federal level, SBA is talking about their new disaster recovery loan. So if you are one of the millions, and I want to explain to you the magnitude of this, the reason why SBA has put this into their package, the number is incredible. 99.9% of every business in the US today is classified as a small business. 99, okay? 30 million businesses. If they had not put this in the package, to be honest, I would have said to them as a consultant, you might as well close shop, move to another country, because you are going to destroy the entire economy, because we are the foundation. Every single person on this call represents the foundation of the United States of America from a business perspective. So the loan is 3.75% over 30 years. You can see, you can use it for accounts payable and debts and payroll. However, it's a loan. You will have to pay it back. So don't go after something if you have to pay it back, and don't go after something if I can show you how to get a better deal. This is a let's make a deal kind of thing. I want you to realize you're gamifying your business right now, and you have to be strategic. So what do I mean by that? How can I be strategic? You're thinking to myself. SBA is the federal government. They're the ones who decide. So Kedma, what are you referring to? Let me show you. This is one example. If you happen to reside in the state of Michigan, so you can take this example and you can think of the state of Arizona, the state of New York, the state of Oregon, you need to be looking at economic development funds from your state. Michigan just came out with this and said they are offering grants of up to $10,000. Grants, guys. This means free. This means do not repay back. This means no interest. And if you need a loan, they're doing 50 to 200,000, but look at the interest rate, 0.25%. Now, we're all intelligent people on this call. And if we're live streaming, we're all intelligent people watching everything, right? Why would you go after a loan for 3.75% if you reside in a state that's giving you 0.25%? That's the power of target funding. It means you have to step back, see the entire picture so that you can target the right funds and not go after any funds. So what I tell my clients is you have to pay attention to what's happening at the state level, but we can then trickle it down. So I'm going to show you another example. Okay? These are actually grants now localized. Now, if you are residing in California, you'd look at the state of California. So you'd look at California economic development or grants California, you trickle it down to Los Angeles. Or if you're in Colorado, you trickle down to Denver. This is just a small sliver of all the funds available just in grants. $7,500 for Denver, $10,000 for Seattle, up to $20,000 in Wisconsin. So when I said to you in the beginning, you need to treat it like a pizza pie, what I mean is if you need $50,000 and $20,000 is coming out of a grant at the local level, and another 20 comes out of the state level, and you still need SBA, you'd only need 10,000 from them, because you would get the 40,000 from 2 other types of grants. So this is why the game changes if you can look at things more expansive. We can trickle it down even more. These are loans. I'm having a panic attack with one of my kids. So I'm going to pause. This is very unusual for women entrepreneurs. So hold on a minute. I'll be right back.
Yeah, so while Kedma is away, is everybody following? Are there any questions so far?
I'm so sorry, guys. This was totally like the weatherman. So this will be perfect for future showings.
That video is so cute.
I'm so sorry. So, so this is an example of loans. So you can see how the states and cities are stepping up, but you have to be very careful what you're getting. Are you getting a loan or are you getting a grant? The difference here is I want you to imagine you're panicking, you're worried, you're not sure, should you get extra money? Why not apply for interest-free loan? They're basically giving you the money to hold for a period of months. You could pay it back and there's no interest tied to it. So that's what I'm telling my clients. Go ahead, get the $25,000 interest-free loan and keep it. And then pay it off, right? It's not a grant, but at least it's better than getting a 3.75% loan. These are just quick examples of trickling down. I happen to be based in Oregon. What you need to be aware of is if you are in a rural or a smaller town, it's okay. You still have to see what other funds are wrapping around that. So these are smaller little sub areas of where I live. So I kind of am showing you this as an example of how it can even trickle down to a smaller level than the bigger cities. And this one is one of my favorites because I'm based in Portland. I want to just show you this as an example. This is an example of a funding that just came out for $190,000. But remember, everything is targeted. This is prioritizing to Asian and Pacific Islander owned businesses. But here's the fun part. It's only available to a 2-block radius. That's right. Jade District in Old Town Chinatown is a 2-block radius. So if you're based in a 2-block radius, you're the only one who's going to get to apply for that. But then you can apply for all the other funds within Portland, and then within the state, and then within the federal. So that is why I'm teaching you. It's like the blossoming of a flower that allows you to trickle and really expand everything in one way. And everything in my book teaches that. On the flip side, now I'm going to go at the higher level. These are examples of bigger companies who are giving money away. If you don't know this right now, please, please, please go to Facebook. They're giving $100 million grant in the form of about $3,000 per business to help you be successful. Whether it's Facebook ads, whether it's messaging, whether it's an actual cash grant. But you can see how things are really layered around variables. If you go back to that first slide and second slide, everything is tied to variables. I also want to talk a little bit about this. If you are struggling and you're saying, Kedma, will the lenders pay for my credit card right now? How do I deal with my credit card? What are some challenges or support systems? I worked with a client this week who said, Kedma, my credit card interest is 16%. Do I go after the SBA loan for that? Do I get a grant for that? This is exactly what I said. I said, I need you to call your credit card company. I need you to explain the situation. I need you to tell them you cannot pay this right now and they need to negotiate. An hour later, he sends me a message. Kedma, I can't believe you made me do this, because I make my clients do things. I always say, this is non-negotiable. You need to get on the phone and you need to call. I can't believe you made me do this. They just reduced my interest to 3%. Okay, so I want you to pause on that, because we're talking about 3.75% SBA, which I love. I came from SBA, right? I spent 15 years on and off working for SBA, the Small Business Development Center, the Women's Business Center. However, my job as your superhero advocate, funding expert, is to make sure you get the best deal for what's happening right now and in the future. So he eliminated his stress with one phone call. Okay, this is the last thing I'm going to talk about. And then if there's any questions, let's open it up for questions. Kiva is an interest-free loan program. This is an outlier. You're not going to see this, but this is an example of an outlier where on top of all the other funds you're getting, they are offering zero interest loans of up to $15,000. The final action item for you before I answer questions is, I don't want you to panic. I want you to be prudent. I want you to play the game right. And I want you to realize that it's not about less funds. There's a lot of funds out there, but you have to be strategic in how to get those funds. And that's why I wrote the book, was because I wanted people to know that we can play the game differently and we can win at playing the game. Okay, I'm going to open it up.
Thank you, Kedma. So I have a question first. Are you wearing your superhero cape?
I sure am. So this is my superhero cape. They're all customized and I wear them in all my keynotes.
Love it. We do have a couple of questions from Amy. Would you say it's better for entrepreneurs to freeze interest or ask for a lower rate this week? And then a follow-up question is, what about for individuals?
To freeze interest, or what was the other one?
Or to ask for a lower rate.
It depends on how much you owe. So what I want you to do, what I'm telling all my clients is, right now you're going to go into a 90-day budget plan. You're going to scale all your expenses. You're going to look at all your monthly payments, and then you're going to calculate what is better for you. And I would rather you look at the longevity of it. If they're going to give you a lower interest rate over the period of 6 months, and it's a significant one, like 3%, versus zero interest rate over a month, you want to calculate, because it's probably going to be much better to be over 6 months. So that's the time where you get the best options, and then you do the formula for your business.
And what about for individuals, for credit cards, lines of credit?
Yeah, that's all the same. As far as I'm concerned, you're a solopreneur, you're in the gig economy, everything, it's all in, right? You don't have to be a corporation. You're just going to call them up and you're going to say, here's my situation. I can't pay my bill this month because of how my business was impacted.
Mm-hmm. And is it true that I have heard that for some lenders, you need to specifically mention that you've been impacted by COVID before their kind of system?
Without a doubt, without a doubt. I had a case with a client right now who's applying for the SBA loan, and he says, should I apply because it's showing I'm very profitable right now? I'm like, I think you need to call your loan officer and tell them, will you be rejected because you're applying for disaster loan recovery and you're profitable? So remember, the funds are set aside for people who have truly had disaster. And so, yeah, you're going to probably have to disclose what has been the negative impact on your business.
Cool. Thank you. We have 3 more minutes before Kedma has to pop up.
Yeah. And I want to let you know that I am available. I want to make sure we continue the conversation. I'm happy to, connect and check in on your platform, or having you guys reach me. Every Friday I do a live funding program. So I just don't want you to feel that this is the end of the conversation.
Super. Would you be willing to have Debbie or you email the link to your weekly thing, and we can?
I will.
Here. And
absolutely.
We have a follow-up question. Do you know anything specific about Minnesota?
Not yet, but I am working week by week, just trying to find it. It won't take me long. It would, 15 minutes really to half an hour for me to just kind of see where it's at. What I would suggest right now for them is to go on to Google Minnesota Economic Development Agency, and I want you to call them. You're going to say that you're on their website and you're totally confused what kind of funding is available, and they need to tell you exactly what loans and grants are set aside for Minnesota business owners to support you. You've got to be very specific.
Super. Well, thank you. I also mention really quickly before you go that has been recorded and it will be available in perpetuity. So,
I love it.
Yeah, Kedma has very graciously, offered to answer questions that may come up after watching this. So I just want to make sure that that is clear.
Thank you so much. And thank you for letting me just spend a few minutes with everyone. And I hope we continue the dialogue.
Thank you for being with us. It is such a pleasure to have you on this phone call. Thank you so much. It's really nice to, just outside of my own house. So
yep, I get it. I get it.
And this was really great information, super useful. And
awesome.
We will let you go fly off to save your.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. And this meeting is still open. If anybody wants to chat amongst ourselves, feel free to do that. If you do have any questions, please feel free to communicate them, and I will scoot them along to Kedma. We also, as I mentioned, we have a couple of copies of Target funding to give away. And I'm going to be reaching out to you to figure out how to get those to you. We'll have to do some sort of porch drop-off system or something. But yeah, please feel free to share this video with friends, with colleagues, and have a great day, everyone.